we could potentially do some playing some game jam games. Depends on if we get it set up and everything. But let's first start by introducing ourselves. My name's CJ.
I'm mabbees.
And we are hobbyist indie game developers, and we are working on a game called Terra Nova, which is we call it a visual, folks call it a visual novel or interactive fiction. We like to call it an interface drama.
Yeah.
So, in a Windows XP type interface, you have talking about your friends and your life on LimeJournal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very faithful recreation of reimagining of the early 2000s internet. So today we might talk a little bit about our game, but mostly we're going to talk about game jams.
Yeah. Because coming up this weekend is Global Game Jam.
Yes, indeedy. In fact, it has started from January 20th, but this is going to be the last weekend of Global Game Jam, and we are going to be running a site. I'm going to be running a site. Mabbees is going to be participating.
That's right.
So, Mabbees, what is a game jam?
So Game Jam is an event where people make a game in a really short amount of time, usually one weekend, 48 hours, something like that.
And Global Game Jam isn't the only game jam out there. In fact, if you go to itch.io and you click the Jams tab, you will see that it's not just this time of year, but all year round there are jams happening all over the world. So for anybody who is interested in jams and says, oh, I can't participate in this game jam, maybe next year, maybe take a look at this and see if there's something that you want to participate in. Mabbees and I, outside of Global Game Jam, have participated in other jams such as Molly Jam and then also Date Mate Jam. I think also back in the old days, Game Jolt used to have some jams on there.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Ta-da! So yeah, both itch.io and Game Jolt have interesting jams run by different people, and I see some of them are kind of NSFW game jams as well. I happened to pause and look at that. Whoops. So yes. Well, I'm a busy person. Why is it that I should even do a game jam? I mean, taking off an entire weekend to go do something that I've never done before seems a little scary.
Well, I think if you're interested in game development at all as a hobby, if it's just like something that piques your interest a little bit, the game jam's a really good way to do it, because you'll be in the same, metaphysical room these days anyway, but you'll be there with other people that are also trying to figure this out, and some people that have done this a lot and can help show you the way. So I think, I don't know, comparatively, I've learned a lot of game jams that if I was trying to learn on my own, just like watching tutorial videos or reading blogs or something, I think would have been really the slow way to do that.
Yeah.
Which isn't to say that, you know, learning on your own is a bad thing either. I very much encourage anybody who wants to do that to, you know, pursue game development in whatever way feels comfortable. But yeah, that's been my experience. I think game jams are great because you get to meet new people, you get to meet people that can teach you some new things. You can mentor people if you already know things and want to help other people know what you know.
Yep.
So.
I also find, to add to Mabby's response, I also find that game jams are a great way of experimenting with things that you haven't done before. And think about the last time that you actually gave yourself time to really look at something and fail at it and try it over again and sort of like puzzle it over in your mind. I imagine that most of us, even people who are actively going to school, but like most of us have school or work or other responsibilities that we're thinking about while we're doing something, or we're trying to move towards getting good enough in the hobby so that people can pay us for it. So if you are casually drawing, maybe some people have commissioned or have encouraged you to take commissions so that people will pay you for your drawing and maybe you can make a living off of it. Well, especially, I would say, I was about to say even for people who draw professionally, because I do design professionally, but even, I would say especially because you do anything professionally, even if you do anything professionally, it's really nice to create a play space for yourself that you can just go off the rails. You don't necessarily have to have the restrictions that you previously did. You can experiment in new technologies and ways of thinking and doing that ultimately will inspire and innovate you for years to come. I think that some of the games that Matt and I have done in game jams, one of them became the basis for this game.
Yep.
And the others are ones that I remember very fondly because just my side. I realize that like half of it is redesigned and half of it's not redesigned, but cool. I was going to show you some of the stuff that we did. In 2018, we did a VR game where a headset is split across 2 to 3 people and they have to solve puzzles through teamwork and verbal communication. We got some people to test our game, and I have to say it was really funny to watch them walk around, especially because the VR space is much different than the physical space. So there sometimes would be times where they would run into a table, but they had to go get an object that was like across the table. So they had to figure out a way through that, right? And like, I would not say that this game would make it into a AAA game. I also would say if it was released as is, I'm not 100% sure people would pay money for it. But it was a really fun experiment, and the people who were playing our game had a lot of fun, and we really enjoyed watching them do it.
Yeah.
Mabbees, you talked a little bit about Chicago Pass.
I did. That was a fun game jam to create for. I feel like one of the things that can be frustrating during game jams and can happen for sure is running into some kind of roadblock where you're like, put it into the game engine or something like that, you know. And that kind of thing really like saps the momentum out of your you know, flow and enjoyment of the weekend sometimes. Chicago Pass was a game that we did in Twine, and one of the things I really enjoyed about working on this is that it really felt like the momentum just kept flowing for the whole thing.
Yeah.
So Twine is a really neat, nifty little game engine for making interactive fiction, and I don't know, it's quite quick to prototype with.
Yeah.
You can I don't know, you can write some dialogue or some scenes or some whatever and get it imported into the game really easily because I don't know, I think there's not really that overhead of here's, you know, pixel art that you have to export and turn into sprite sheets, or, you know, there's not some of that other asset management worry that can happen in other game engines.
Yeah. It's very like from idea to production, the time is very short for Twine, which is part of the reason why I really like Twine. I think that, and especially it's playable without any sort of like, you know, extra modes or anything. So that being said, it might be fun to play it. But actually, before we get into that, let's go through the entirety of the games first that we've done in Channel Drive.
Yeah.
So Channel Drive was our very first game that was actually fun, in my opinion. And it took us a while to get to that, actually, because, and I say by actually fun, I mean, we had another person who was not us play our game and say it was fun. So that was really awesome. But it was a driving game where you had a circular loop and you had to catch up. You had to catch another car, and the other car was driven by Dr. Cloth, or no, yeah. Mr. Cloth,
Mr. Cloth,
who was literally a sock puppet, and he had a channel switcher where he would switch the channel on you every time. Like, well, it wasn't. I guess it was randomly, wasn't it? Pretty randomly. Yeah. And so you had three channels, but each of the channels had its own track, and you had to stay on the track as he was switching the channels on you. So you had classic, action, and sci-fi, and it was that was one of those games, now that I think about it, that I was like, actually, we could really, like, we could have polished that, just the concept alone, and we could have polished it into something that was, like, really, really strong, I think. Yeah. Bedtime: A Space Odyssey, that was for iPad, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah. iOS, it was a point-and-click space-themed adventure. And then these are much older games that Mabbees and I have done. Sometimes separately, sometimes... Actually, all of these were not ones that you worked on, huh, Mabbees?
I think... Right, yeah.
Yeah.
This is your website.
Well, yes,
okay,
yes.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Naturally.
But these are the ones that I worked on. But that, beside, like, all that to say, that I think that, especially if you're looking to... You might have noticed from all of these games that they're all different platforms and all using like a bunch of different technologies, and I think that was entirely the point, was that in 48 hours we wanted to do something new and interesting and explore a concept that neither of us had explored before.
Yeah. That's one other thing I want to say about game jams. It's a really good crash course in prototyping.
Yeah.
You do have this constant time pressure of, oh no, we've only got 48 hours to get this game working. And so there's, I don't know, I think a certain, what would you call that? There's a mood to it, or a, I don't know, there's a way of working that you get into where it's like, okay, it's good enough, we're gonna move on.
Yeah.
And it's, you don't really have to worry about doing things the right way, so to speak. As a programmer in my day job, I do care a lot about trying to do things the right way, because one of the things about working on a code base for a long time is you have to live with all of your bad decisions.
Same with design too.
Same with design, you gotta live with those bad decisions, and so you don't want to, I don't know, make hasty decisions for the most part. But prototypes are different. You can, the point is make hasty decisions, see if they work, throw them away, and make something else.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. I agree. All right, before we like dive into Shikado Pass, because I think that would be fun to do, I would like to talk a little bit about this time in our lives, because this could go like for a long time. But I also want to know, how did you start making games? How did you decide, oh yeah, like I want to make games as a hobby, this is something I want to do? How did you get involved in Game Creation Society, which is how we both met? And maybe just give us a little background.
Okay. Let's see. I think some of the first games that I made, maybe when I was 10 or something, were like, I'd make up my own card games or board games, or pencil and paper kinds of games, right? And there's something really fun and playful about that. It was just like trying things out, of I don't know, seeing how systems, how different like game rules and systems and things interact with each other, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what the first like video game or computer game is that I ever made. I'm not sure. I think, again, when I was really pretty young, maybe middle school or something, there were some like game maker type, prototyping software that I messed around in. One of them had this like little programming thing that was kind of like Scratch, where you could be like, I want these.
For those of you who don't know what Scratch is.
Scratch is real neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's this programming environment where you can make programs and behavior and stuff by like dragging and dropping things and fitting them together.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say some of the I wish you could see the interface, because that's the part that I think is so interesting. Look at all these. What is this?
Cute.
Anyway, point being,
so yeah,
it's good.
I don't know. So since pretty young, I'd been messing around with stuff like that. There was a program called HyperCard.
Oh yeah.
I made some games in that.
Holy crow! You're taking me back.
Yeah.
That's for the Apple, right?
Let's see.
Apple?
I don't know. I think I had it on Windows, but
This, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, it's making a comeback. This HyperCard.
Yeah, I was used to
Open source,
HyperCord
alright.
as
Yeah.
just the Apple computer. Okay, cool.
So anyway, I don't know. I've loved messing around with stuff like this since forever. In college is probably the first time I made like an actual proper game that somebody else could run on their computer and wasn't just like a little prototype thingy.
Yeah.
Yeah, GCS. Game Creation Society was a real fun time.
It's true. Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I didn't have any experience as a kid making games except for physical games.
Yeah.
So I was...
You make up rules for playground games and that kind of thing.
And like I remember there was, when I was growing up, there was games for princesses, and then there were games where boys would ride dragons, and so I made a game called Princess Dragon, and
Love it.
The game was I was just like fed up with the fact that princesses couldn't ride dragons like at the time, or rather there were some fantasy books that I later discovered about like dragon riding, but I was really into dragon riding and like dragon summoning and just like in general dragons. And so like I made this game that I think functioned a lot like Candyland, where you would go, or maybe like Life, where like you'd go on the board and then there were different icons where you could draw different cards of things that happened, right?
Yeah.
But it was all about like taking care of your dragon and like just riding the dragon. I don't think there was any particular point, but I made pipe cleaner dragons that you could be. So that was my very first board game that I made when I was a kid. And yeah, lots of physical prototyping with like cardboard and paper and stuff like that. And I wasn't really that much into I don't want to say I wasn't that much into the digital world. I really was, but like neither of my parents knew what to do with computers beyond like word processing. So like I didn't learn about HyperCard, and I didn't learn about any of the things where you could like build software. Yeah. It was just sort of like you could play games on it or you could do word processing. So I did a lot of writing on the word processing. In WordPerfect, if anybody remembers that. This was like pre-Microsoft Word, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
But like, write my thing in WordPerfect, and then I would put it on a 3.5 inch floppy disk. And I had a little pouch that I kept all of my floppy disks in while we were traveling, and so that I could plop my floppy disk in and write while we were on the go in like somebody else's computer. That was the old school, like, take your work with you.
Yep.
All right, so I wrote a lot, for sure. And then it wasn't until I got into the Game Creation Society that I really started thinking, like, maybe I could make games. And I remember... I think that Game Creation Society was in like its second year or something like that when I came on campus. Yeah. And I saw a flyer, so I went to the recruiting thing. And I remember somebody asking me if I was an artist, which at the time, I mean, yes, I did do, like, I do art.
You were and you are.
Yes, I am an artist. But... it was weird for me to, like, looking back on that, I realized what that actually meant, which was that I was the only non-male person in the room, and so like they assumed that I was not a programmer. And so they asked me if I was an artist. I said yes, and they said, "Please join. We can't get anybody from the art, from the art school to join, and we don't know why." And then later I found out it's because of like, in general, just like not great at things ended up happening that we like pulled some people from the art school, but a lot of times the art school people were really busy or they couldn't produce the amount of assets that the lead person wanted. So like there was some friction there that like we found out later. But I was sort of like, okay, yeah, I'll do art. And so we started with I started doing the UI and art for Arbolith. Pulled in some friends that I had made in the art school to help with some of this. So that was my first like experience with like UI design and like making stuff in 3D Blender. It probably wasn't Blender at the time. We built our own game engine for this bad boy. And then after that, the next year I decided that I was going to lead my own game. But this time, instead of previously the way the game like Creation Society went was you had people pitch their game and then people would join your game team and then you would spend a semester working on a game. And so I said, you know what would be cool is for the pitch of the game that we did a flash animation, like just a promo video. Like we should do a promo video for our pitch rather than like tell people what the pitch was. And so Parasomnia was the very first promo video in Game Creation Society to my knowledge.
Yeah, I think you really upped the game.
It was really
up the stakes on that.
I really was quite proud of that. And oh my god, did you realize I was a dark bean? I was definitely dark with names like this.
Yes.
Yeah. So like, yeah, so I led the game, and also did like art direction and like the whatchamacallit, like cutscenes for like the cutscene art for the game. I'm kind of glad they don't have the cutscene art here because I don't think it was great, but that was a really long time ago. But one of the things that I really enjoyed was working together with John Nesky because we like I would come up with some of these like he and I were the ones that put together this like game concept, and I would come up with some like sort of anime dark whatever, and then he would come up with some really brilliant like game systems or like the way that the game would be designed to like invoke fear. Two things that I really enjoyed were, one, we decided to take the damage counter from Super Smash Brothers, that was like a new hit thing at the time, and apply it to this, meaning that like you didn't have a health bar, but progressively as you got hit more, there was a higher chance that you were going to die. So the like number generator would go up, but you really didn't know when you were going to die. So it could be in 2 hits you're going to die, like in 5 hits you're going to die. You didn't really know. So that was, oh, Toji's here.
Hi, Toji.
Hello. Yes, we did. We updated our setup.
Yeah.
So like that was one game dynamic I thought was really cool. And then the other thing was that John really wanted to give the monsters like proper names, not like nasty zombie number 3.
No,
he was like, this is Theodore. Yeah.
That's adorable. I love it.
And I actually thought that the creep factor on it really went up because it's like,
kind of does.
Do I know this guy? Is that this guy Theodore? But yes, Theodore was. I think we had two main enemies. One was a dog, and then the other was Theodore.
Are all the guys Theodore? Are some of them Bradley?
What were their names? I think I mostly remember Theodore, and then I'm pretty sure the dog's name was like Oliver or like
Yeah.
something like that.
It's a proper dog name.
The best part about it is that like this this guy's name. I mean, I joke at myself, but like his name is Theron Hashimoto.
Of course.
Which is the best name for an OC donut steal.
Yeah.
I should actually redo Theron's like design and everything. Would be very fun. And then yeah, Dreamscape. Admittedly, this one I contributed character design to primarily. So this was I think John was the art lead on this one, so I came in here to just provide like art consultation and stuff. So anyway, the point is Game Creation Society really got me like understanding the nuts and bolts of what it takes to like actually make a video game and actually do UI interface and actually make, you know, the things work the way that you want them to work. And so I have a lot to thank for that. And also I met you through
That's right.
Game Creation Society.
Yeah.
Though it was a very sort of like brief meeting because I was gone in Japan for a year and then I came back and was like, what's happening? What's going on?
And now we're back in Japan.
Yeah. I think Game Creation Society is still going on, and I'm glad that it is because it's some of the more recent games are like beyond what we could ever like possibly you know, like what we could ever possibly do. Because these folks are like, they're starting, in the beginning it was like, I don't mean to be like super old about this, but like half of the semester was us building our own game engine, and then the other half of the semester was like hurriedly putting a game into it. So the fact that like the folks who are coming into the Game Creation Society now have a semester to build a thing and they have a pre-existing game engine just like waiting for them is like so awesome. Oh my god. Oh my god! What is this?
I love it already.
Rap battle! Oh man. Wow. Oh. Yeah. This kind of makes me want to do like a Game Creation Society focused stream where we like go through people's games and stuff. Yeah. Anyway, that's not this stream. We said that we were going to play this game because it's really easy to play.
Yeah.
So let's do that. I'm going to kill the music because there's music in the game. So, one moment.
Well, we've got our own music.
We do. There it is. I'm pretty sure that I'm not sure if the Japanese is atteru or not because at that time it was not as great. Is it playing? Is the music playing? Can you hear it? Anyway. Do you want to read?
You hold a crinkled letter. The paper is yellowed, delicate. You got it 6 months ago. An unexpected treasure from Kamakura. Your friends there wrote it a few years after you left your most recent job. They hadn't seen you in years, but they still remembered. Still thought you were worth writing to. Maybe they saw you as a tieback to the life they had each left behind, for one reason or another. Maybe they were worried you had died. Either way, the leather had been a lifeline. When the job ended, you had somewhere to go. People to see one more time. To Mishima Yu from Enya Kazuya, Yamagata Noriko, and Takemi Reijiro. We've read it 100 times. Life's different in Kamakura now, they say. The train's wheels clack and screech, driving you onward, one step closer to home.
Ray was young, the youngest of us, in fact. He had the zest for life you don't see much in most samurai. Comes with the territory, I guess. It's hard to get excited about your day when you know you're going to be killing, and maybe being killed by, honorable men. What got Ray excited was the other stuff. The little challenges that would come up in the course of a mission. He could pick locks, scale walls, whip up explosives out of nothing. He always had some way in, some way around the inevitable. He had so much potential. We always said he'd be leading his own squad one day. Maybe an army. He wanted to come with me when I said I was going to work for big techs, but the contract was for one. No way around it. Money was tight back then. Still is, I suppose. He was resourceful, though. He'll be doing fine. He was a fool. War is no place for someone like that. He wanted a life that challenged him. I hope he was able to find it.
I think he was resourceful and he'll be doing fine.
Nori was our specialist. If we needed to take someone out, we'd cover the entrances and she'd take care of the interior. She was fast on her feet and even faster with a blade. She was kind, though, despite the nature of our work. It was a ritual, an extension of herself. The preparation, the approach, the pursuit, the kill. She wasn't happy about it, but it didn't faze her. It was just this part of her life. I thought she'd stay in the game forever, but when the recruiters came calling, she said she'd seen the writing on the wall. She knew what was coming and it was time to change. She was brave. It's hard to turn away from something that's become a part of you. She could have been the best in the business. Now she's just some civilian. Her loss, I guess. She saw the world that would change around us. I wish I'd paid more attention.
She thought the world would change around us. Kaz. My best friend Kaz. He could be a scary guy sometimes. Rough, tattooed, and strong as a bear. He was always the one to kick doors down to get answers in an interrogation. I never thought I'd see him back down from the life. But the last job we did together, I guess something changed. He just didn't want to do it anymore. He talked about going out to the country, becoming a farmer. We grew up together. Our parents were old friends, and many a day we spent wandering the streets of Kamakura. As I got older, I wanted to leave, to see the world. Kamakura wasn't enough for me. I had to see it all. But Kaz, he loved it. He was born there, and he always said that that's where he'd die. Kaz in the fields? I can't see it. Maybe he wasn't cut out for this life. Maybe he was just following me. He just needed some time to work through it. He'll be back to the Kaz I know and love when I see him next. There's something poetic about it, though. To go from taking life to tending it.
I like he just needs some time to work through it. He'll be back to the Kaz I know and love when I see him next.
Yeah.
Life's different in Kamakura now, they say. The Kamakura I remember was a bustling town. Shops everywhere, no buildings much higher than 2 stories. Since Shimbutsubundi, the Buddhist temples were being dismantled and destroyed, but Kamakura still had the big bronze statue of the great Buddha, the Tsurugaoka Hachimangu, the Shinto shrine that marks the center of the city. There were bars and brothels, gamblers, mercenaries, people out to make their fortune. And there was always something going on. Always some intrigue among those in charge, being played out in the streets and the alleys of the city. Kamakura was once a bastion of military might, the seat of the Kamakura shogunate 6 centuries ago. And rightly so. It's a natural fortress. The only way in or out of town is by sea, or through one of the 7 entrances, narrow artificial passes cut into the hills. The Kurumi River crosses through, winding its way down to the beach, changing its names as it goes. Nameri, Zazen, Ebisudo, Sumiuri, and Mado, a different name for each stage of its life. But the city's name doesn't change. But its people might. It's been 4 years since I was there last.
You inch forward in your seat as you feel the train's momentum begin to shift. The clacking of the wheels comes farther and farther apart now, and the trees and hills outside your window pass slower and slower. You hear the steam whistle blow. You've arrived at Ofuna Station, 6 kilometers outside Kamakura. You've heard the train is going all the way to Kamakura in a few years, but for now you have to walk. The path to Kamakura is different than you remember it. Fewer samurai and gamblers headed into town to make their luck, and more merchants and aristocrats headed into town to take someone else's. Thank you. You wind your way through, making quick time to the city. Kamakura looks different today. The buildings seem taller, the streets seem wider. You feel like a stranger there.
As you walk into town, you feel as if you'd stepped into another realm. Is this the main street? You see no samurai like yourself. Merchants are milling about, hawking their wares to the few customers who are dotting the streets. You pass a group of women shuffling along in frilly dresses and boots. They stop to gawk at you. With your swords and traditional dress, you stand out. Are you lost? One of the women asks. You don't know what to say. If you're hungry, traveler, there's a good sushi place down the way. Oh, and if you're thirsty, take a left and you'll find the bar.
Let's go to the bar. You saunter into the smoky saloon. At the back of the room, some old women sit around a table playing mahjong. To the right, a squat man pours drinks from behind the bar. As your eyes adjust to the dim room, you spot a familiar-looking figure hunched over the bar.
It's a willow!
Could it be?
Oh, sorry, the figure is not Willow. It's a willow who was the third person who helped us make this game.
That's right. Wow.
All right, continue. You can continue.
Continue?
Oh, continue.
Continue.
Oh no,
Oh no,
Ray.
it's Ray. Okay. Ray? No response. His nose is buried deep in his glass. Takamide Juro? Is that you? You grab the bar stool next to him and take a seat. The man sputters on his drink, surprised, and then swallows. You came... What are you doing back here anyway? Big Tex finally get sick of you? He chuckles to himself. Come on, tell me everything. I'll buy you a drink. Ray slaps a hand on the bar. Another pint for my friend here. So what you been up to, you? I like how her name is you.
You. It's me.
You. Not much to tell, to be honest. Tosa Prefecture is about as quiet as a mouse. You sip your beer slowly. How about you, Ray? You find a new lord yet? New lord? Ray snorts. Listen, there hasn't been a daimyo in Kamakura for years. No, the Meiji... Ray pauses, apparently trying to think of what to say next. Times are hard, Mishima. There's nothing here for us now. Just the saloon.
Just me, my drink.
Ray's sadness hangs in the air for several moments. You begin to have second thoughts about coming here. What happened to the happy-go-lucky young samurai you once knew? Ray abruptly bolts upright, a wry smile spreading across his face. Hey you, remember that time in Mikawa we crashed the daimyo's place? The look on his face when he realized we weren't statues.
Yeah, I remember. Or that's in the past now, Ray.
Oh yeah, I remember. That was great. But nothing compared to when we fought at Totomi. But then, Kaz always tells that one better than I do. You and Ray joke and swap stories at the bar for hours. You can get used to this, you think? It's not exactly the high adventure life you once led, but it's nice to enjoy good company and good beer. One more thing occurs to you. Hey Ray, where's Kaz anyway? You seen much of him lately? Yeah, sometimes. Check the temple, he doesn't get out much. You say goodbye to Ray. Leave the bar tipsy and in high spirits.
Just pretend that doesn't exist.
There you go. Proofreading! Woo!
You make your way to the sushi restaurant where you hear Inori works now. She was always good with knives, so you guess it was an easy transition. The shop is small, the first floor of the one of the old two-story shops. You think it used to be a general store when you were in the town last. The wooden steps lead up to an ornately decorated storefront. Nori's sushi. How appropriate.
Yeah, A tipsy.
Yeah, A
Not
tipsy.
S rank tipsy, not B tipsy.
Yeah, S rank tipsy. You don't want to get there.
Ooh, yeah, it's a little dangerous.
It's late afternoon, but still too early for most people to be getting dinner. As you enter the shop, it's mostly empty, just Nori and her apprentices preparing for that day's service. She's showing a young man and a young woman how to massage takoyaki. She kneads the octopus expertly, it should be taco, because otherwise she's massaging the balls!
Hey.
She kneads the octopus expertly and her sleeves rolled up to her arms. Hey, Nori. She looks up at you and smiles. She takes her hands out of the bowl and motions. Oh, she's kneading the batter for takoyaki.
Yeah, sure.
Motions for one of the apprentices to take over. She motions for you to come over and starts to carefully wash her hands. She speaks softly as you approach. Mishima, you. I was starting to wonder if you'd gotten our letter. She flicks some water at you. She could have written back, you know. I wasn't sure what to say. Kamakura is different, Mishima. Yeah, well, Tosa isn't exactly the same. Isn't the most interesting letter to send. She dries her hands with an old towel, white, embroidered with little green frogs. We were worried about you. Yeah, well... You pause for a moment. She's not looking for an excuse. I'm not looking for an excuse, you!
Hold it.
I'm just letting you know. Her tone is sweet, not judgmental, not upset. She's genuinely happy to see you. The letter was good, really. I needed it. Something to come back to. She makes her way around the counter. Let's go for a walk. She catches your quizzical look. My apprentices can handle the shop until I get back. They're good kids. The two of you head out to the street and start to make your way down towards the Kurumigawa, the river that we talked about before. So, a sushi master. How'd I know you'd end up doing something with knives? She chuckles, looking off at the trees for a moment. It's time for a change, you. The restoration means there's no room for samurai anymore. You work with what you got. I was able to find work, and you were way better than me. So why not stay? She absentmindedly kicks a stone out of the path. The time for violence is coming to an end. All the battles have been won. It's time to build something new in the wreckage. She kneels down to pick a flower growing between the stones in the path. She hands it to you. It's time to stop fighting. The two of you walk for a while, eventually coming to the wooden bench on the bank of the river. You remember this spot. You, Ray, Kaz, and Nori used to come here even now and then. You look out over the rushing waters. She puts a hand on your shoulder. You, even samurai get old eventually. What are you going to do when it happens to you? I've been thinking about it. Or, get old? I'm in this till the end.
Get old? I'm into this. Man.
I'm into this to the end. That day won't come for a long time, Nori. I'm not going to give up everything I am just because some emperor raised the taxes. You shrug her hand off your shoulder, a touch of anger in her eyes. You struck a chord. Change is inevitable, you. Don't blame me if you can't take it. Damn! The hammer! The two of you sit in stony silence for a while. Eventually, Nori gets up to leave, heading back to her sushi shop. You decide to pay Kaz a visit at the temple.
You make your way to Jufukuji, the Zen temple where you've heard Kaz now spends his days. As you make your way up the road, you try to imagine the big tough man living life as a gentle monk. You make your way through the big red gate that marks the entrance to the temple and follow the path down to the main hall. The room is filled with strange statues. 3 of Shakyamuni, the Buddha, 1 of Kannon, Bodhisattva of Compassion, and 2 enormous wooden statues of the Heavenly Kings. They must have been moved from Tsurogoko Hachimangu around the time that you left. You find Kaz in the center of the room, in Zazen. Seated meditation.
Kaz?
Yes? Kaz doesn't seem to hear you at first. He sits perfectly still. You almost think he might be asleep. But a moment later he stands in one fluid motion. His eyes open and a huge grin fills his face. Mishima! He rushes over to you, catching you in a huge embrace. His robes hang loosely over his large frame, but you can tell he's still just as strong as he'd been back in the old days. He pulls back slightly, holding your shoulders and taking a good look at you. It's been too long, my friend, he smirks ruefully. You look so much older than when you left. You too, Kaz, you old bear. What are you doing in a Zen temple? I thought you were going to be a farmer. He laughs a bit, clearly amused by this. Ah, yes, I remember that conversation. He leads you over to a few cushions at the side of the room, and the two of you take a seat. I couldn't bring myself to leave Kamakura, but I couldn't keep going the way I was either. I needed time to think. He absentmindedly smooths the fabric of his robe, carefully considering his next words. And since you've been gone, I've had a lot of it. Oh? He looks up, meets your eyes, suddenly looking quite serious. Do you know the second noble truth, Mishima? Sorry, Kaz, can't say I do. His eyes scan your own, pity betraying itself in the corners of his face. He takes a slow, deep breath before speaking again. Well, Shakyamuni teaches us that the root of all suffering can be traced back to two things: desire and ignorance. He waits for you to nod, to signal some kind of understanding. Okay. The work we used to do, the daimyo, fighting over land, over wealth. He stops, trying to conjure the right words to make you understand. Desires like that can never be satisfied, Mishima. People will fight and die, forever, for something they can never truly attain. It's not worth it. Maybe he's right. No, some things need to be fought for.
Maybe he's right. Maybe he's right.
And what should I do instead, Kaz? What other work is there for a samurai? Maybe you can't carry a sword around anymore, but the world still needs strong people. Kaibutsukishaku has made Kamakura a hard place for the devout. People like you and I, we can stand up for the weak, for the defenseless. The two of you talk long into the night, sipping tea and discussing the finer points of Zen Buddhism and the old life. It's near midnight when you finally leave the temple. It was good to see your old friend. Maybe he has a point.
It's late at night now. Back in town for a day, and you're already wondering if you should have even come back at all. You find yourself walking in Shikado Pass, one of the many narrow roads that was cut into the hills surrounding and throughout Kamakura. This one cuts through the hills between the woods! It was home to once another Buddhist temple, built in the third regent of the Kamakura shogunate. It was closed and its artifacts removed for a long time, but the name remains. It was good to see Kaz. He always seemed so strong. I had no idea how much the life had cost him. But the temple, Shakyamuni's teachings, they seemed to have given him purpose, a way to recover from the bloodshed that dominated our lives for so long. Nori, how could she change so much in so little time? When I knew her, she was smart, capable, and deadlier than most. But now what? She only wants to chop sushi? She could have been so much more. It was good to see Ray. He could have a real career as a storyteller. Still might. We could spend plenty of nights whiling away at the tavern, telling tales of the old days. It's good to have a friend like that here. Someone else to remember what it was like. You find yourself standing before the Yagoda tombs, holes cut in the side of the hills as grave sites for important nobles and military leaders. You hear a noise off to the left. You turn to see an unfamiliar face. A man dressed in all black. He has a curved, pointed nose and scars in several places. He looks like a gangster. Mishima, you?
Who's asking?
An interesting party. We heard you were back in town. Might have a job for you.
What kind of job?
The kind you're good at, Mishima. We've got some problems that a samurai would be good for solving.
Hire a samurai.
I see. Well, what do you say? It's about time. Let's roll. That's a job that'll never end for a purpose that'll be never satisfied. I'll pass. You're no daimyo, and a samurai's honor is worth more than you can pay. I'd rather go out on a high note, thanks. You can look elsewhere. Willow says, 48 hours, enough time to tug on your heartstrings, not enough to finish our sentences. Nope. That's right. I wanted to do like the air horn sound. Pew, 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 pew. All right, what do you think, Mabbees? Gonna take the job? You know, pass the job? You're gonna say, F off.
Let's roll.
Let's roll. It's about time. You head off with Mr. Interested Party, who leads you to a local hangout of the Yakuza. Over the next few years, you slowly sell your soul for money and power. It feels kind of good. This is what you were made for, and this is where you were always heading. The end.
Oh no. Okay.
Were you expecting a different ending?
Not really.
Yay! I'm gonna turn back on the nice, sweet tunes.
There we go.
But I think, as you can see, like, so this game was, I think, relatively long for a game that was built in 48 hours.
Yeah.
But one of the cool things about Twine is that we could make a story that tugged at your heartstrings. Okay, granted, I remember, like, the mid part of that story where, like, we were like, we haven't finished it yet. Just import. So, like, yeah. I remember there had to be something that got, like, put in the mix and everything. But that being said, Twine's really good if you want to tell sort of like a full, complete story using like very minimal assets, because the more, assets that you have in the game, the more you're going to have to focus on those assets rather than the story. So Twine is a really good option for if you just want to have some story-based things. You can do it really, really fast in 48 hours. So yes, thank you for coming to our playthrough for the Game Jam game. So, and I'm gonna open this up to like folks in the chat too, because there might be some people who have done, yes, as Willow said, Twine rules, and it's really fun to use. It's like really good for prototyping, really good for telling. We haven't played Channel Drive yet. Yes. I don't know. Do you think it can run on our computer?
Maybe. I don't know. It's a Unity game, right?
It is Unity. It should be able to run.
Be able to.
It should be able to run. One of the things I wanted to like switch gears for a moment anyway is we were talking about surviving Global Game Jam and like some tactical tips around it. Yeah. So like, how do you build a game like this with no, experience whatsoever? And I wanted to let the folks in the chat also have an opportunity if they wanted to ask questions, and also if they wanted to give advice. So if anybody has any questions about like doing your first game jam, or even just like doing game jams in general, feel free to like ask us many questions about this. I feel like we've been doing it long enough that we can say like in general, like, yeah, sure.
Something I like to think about for game jams. It's important to figure out what is like a reasonable scope, or what is a thing that you can make. And when you're trying to think about that, or when I'm trying to think about that, it's like you're gonna have these really cool ideas for what can this game be? And you need to realize those ideas are a tree. Like, not that there's, you know, different branches you can diverge in, but that's also true. But like, imagine like just a tree that's outside, like an actual plant. If the thing that you have in mind for like the school game concept, if it's a big oak tree, you have to think, what is a seed? What is an acorn?
Yeah.
That's what you're gonna actually build. And sometimes like part of that also is I don't know, I guess like in business or at work or whatever, people talk about like MVPs, right? Minimum viable product. It's like that, but on steroids, or the next level of that. It's like think about, okay, if the blue sky big dreaming big version of this game is like a dungeon crawler thing where you can fight a bunch of monsters and then there's a boss fight at the end or something. And there's 5 different weapons or whatever, right? If that's like the tree version of your game, the eventual like little sapling of a tree that you hope to have at the end of the game jam is like some facet of that, or something that kind of approaches that there's like at least a sword and a skeleton monster that you can fight or something, like
right.
Whatever. But the actual seed part is like not even a fucking game. It's like you can. It's an application that you can launch and it opens a window, and that's it, right? Or maybe it's that's like stage 0 of seed or something, and maybe stage version 1 or revision 1 is like you can move your character around the screen.
Yes.
But I don't know, being able to sort of like break down the ideas that you have into these little chunks of functionality that you can actually like get together and put it all together and run it. That's really important.
Yes.
Really important to be able to run your game rather than spend a lot of time laying the groundwork for something that you're never going to have a chance to actually do.
Yes, all that. As you were talking, I was thinking about like the way that I would visualize what you just said.
Awesome. Live sketch noting.
Thanks! One of the many services I provide. So yes, for anybody who's interested, we're currently going over like how to tactically like tackle a game jam, and if you have any questions or like wonders or worries or something like that, feel free to ask them in the chat, and we will totally. Sorry, this caught in my throat. So, to what Mabby said about like envisioning this tree, figuring out the seed, and then figuring out like the component parts of like what the seed is. Time-wise, if you're looking at like a 3-day game jam, you're looking at something like this. Which in the beginning, I will get to the rest of these too. So this could be like So what this is this is a diagram of the like creative process or the process by which you're going to be making the game. And anytime it's also used in design as something called the double diamond, which anytime that the double diamond goes out, it gets bigger. That means your ideas get bigger. So like the scope gets bigger, the big part of the project. So when Mabbees is talking about building the tree, this is the part where you go big, you diverge. And you're dreaming, you're thinking about all of this stuff, you're saying like, oh, I want this dungeon crawler, I want there to be 50 demons, I want them to be customizable or trainable or like something like that. So just say all of those things out loud, in the very first iteration of it. And then, as Mabbees said, moving it into having this idea of a seed and then like what the component parts are of that seed. And if you're doing a 3-day game jam, my recommendation is to do all of the ideation stuff on Friday in a very, very short amount of time. And it seems kind of counterintuitive because you have all day Saturday and all day Sunday to do those things. But like number one thing that I learned in doing game jams and that I tell people is that it will always take longer than you think. And there will always be things that you did not budget in your initial idea concept that are going to come out. So in building these component parts, when you start building them on Saturday, you're going to be like, oh, dang, but I need like a hole in the ground. Like I need a ground asset in order to like hold this seed. And there's a ground asset. And I'm also going to need a hole to put the seed in if we're going to plant it. I mean, it's not going to become a tree, but I need a hole, right? And at this point, your amount of work on Saturday from these component parts, you're going to start adding things.
You thought it was just 3 things. Now it's 5 things.
And now it's 5 things. And you got to make those 5 things and make things work. So Saturday is good for just discovering all of the stuff that you actually signed up for when you're building these component parts. Because when you initially start building, you might say, all right, I'm going to have a screen that boots up and it shows an image of a guy walking, and we're going to have him attack a demon. And that is going to be like concept. Great. I've broken it down into the parts. The parts are startup screen. The part is attack animation, demon dying animation. We have to get the pixel, each of the sprites in there, and then we should be like good to go, right? But then you're like, oh wait, in order for me to boot up a start screen, I need to have UI for the start screen that I didn't plan for. So now I'm going to have to build that UI. So that's what I mean by you're going to discover some things that you didn't otherwise plan that were in your component, that you had assumed were already in your component set that are not naturally in the game engine. So that will diverge your plans a little bit. You'll get to a point where you might be thinking to yourself, I should also say on top of this, I really love mapping the sort of like, yes, thank you. I love drawing in Miro. The like emotional map of like the way people come in is like Friday they're like whoa, Saturday they're like this, and they're like whoa no, and then Sunday they get back up to here. And the reason why is because at the end of Saturday you're going to have discovered so many things about these components that have gone wrong that you're going to be like, how the hell am I going to build a game out of this? It's just impossible, you might say to yourself. But it's not impossible, because everybody goes through this cycle, and you will too. And there will be a point in time where you start hitting at a thing and things will start working. And that's the point where I think is like the best part of the game jam, where you figured out some problem or something starts sort of like breaking through, and you're like, yes, this is how we're going to get everything together. And typically Sunday is the day that happens, or really late on Saturday night.
I want to add to that, the part of that whole like big dip on Saturday, I think is kind of like, this is a, making a game in 48 hours it's like Sisyphean, right? Like you cannot. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can in fact make a game in 48 hours, but you can't like. There are 0 game jams and 0 game jammers. Like this is completely not a thing that happens. You will never be like, oh yeah, I had this idea on Friday, and then I spent Friday evening and Saturday morning totally finishing my game. It's all done. I'm done by Saturday afternoon. That is not going to happen, right? And what is instead going to happen is you will have all these things that you want to get done, and you really do have to prioritize them, and you do really need to call that list, and you really need to push back against the idea that, oh, but maybe I could get this one other thing done if I just skipped sleeping, or if I skipped dinner, or if I worked through lunch, or... Be kind to yourself, you're a human being. It's not worth it.
Toji says, I would like to make Link to the Past in 48 hours, please. Yes. Yeah. No, it is definitely, I completely agree with you that, like, and even in the game that we played, the Road to Shikado Pass, you might have noticed that, like, the illustrations disappeared after a while, and that was just one of the things that had to go.
It's just, we wanted to do more of them.
Yep.
Didn't have the scope, didn't have the time for that.
Yep. And
some of the sentences didn't quite make it.
That was only one sentence. I'm so proud of us. I'm so proud of us. Well, it's like, okay, so hear me out. What if we made a simple MMO with dynamically generated boss fights?
Hey.
Oh, can we do dynamically generated weapons as well?
Yep.
From like a oh, and they spin around you in an animation.
Yeah, of course.
Every time that you choose. Yeah. I want a circular navigation, like. But like, the thing is like, we don't mean to poo-poo those ideas, because like that's the fun part about the game jam, is like making space to explore that, right?
Yeah.
And so on Friday, you get to explore that with all of your team members and say, like, what if there was this? What if there was this? I love this game. You get to, like, kind of get a taste of what people are thinking about what they want to build. And eventually, you'll get to some point in Friday where you're just like, okay, now is for a realistic time. We need to talk about, like, cutting things. And the best... I would say this is like across the board. The best artisans always know when to throw things in the trash. So if there is a thing that's happening on Saturday that is not working, it's stalling the team, it's causing everybody like a bunch of grief and strife, throw it away. Just hands, even if you're scared, even if you're like, but this was the entire concept of the game, toss it. It's not worth it. We made a game, the 2018 game, the one that was the Unreal Engine. By the way, don't use Unreal. Sorry, I don't want to say don't.
Nah.
We used Unreal Engine, and we were really experienced game jammers, and we were like desperately pleading for the like main dev of the Unreal, like we couldn't get it to work on our computers. Like the whole thing was just like, the asset import was all like so much pressure on this one person. I felt really bad for them. So like, I have to say that like, if someone was like, CJ, would you use Unreal Engine again in a game jam? I would say no. But y'all, I mean, you crazy loons, knock yourselves out if you want. It's your game. But that being said, that game that we played, there was on Saturday there was a bunch of like strife of like, how do we get this? How do we work with this? How do we work with this? How do we work with this? And one of our team members suggested that we do paper prototyping, and at the time I was like, no, like this is way too late in the game, we should have been doing this Friday and everything. But like ultimately we went all the way back to paper from code, and we realized that ultimately the game that we were building in code was ultimately not fun, and so what we needed was a more simpler game that was actually fun. And so we threw everything away and then just got to work on the game that we should have been building, which was the one that was fun and not the one that we thought was a good idea. So yeah, it can get pretty crazy. And even again, from like our perspectives of doing game jams for a really long time, there's always something new that you discover that you didn't otherwise discover in building. Yeah. Let's see. Does anyone have any questions about that? If, in terms of like, what do you work on, or like, how do you plan things, or how do you visualize things? We can even talk about game engines if you folks want to talk about game engines. Mabbees and I have like different... Oh yeah. Okay. Just like getting to know the tools and setting them up ahead of time. Should we not get to know the other jammers? Yeah, in the site ahead of time so that we can know what to do. Yeah, I mean like, one of the things that is cool about game jams, especially in person and remote or like whatever, is that usually there's some time in the game jam, and in our site we're gonna make some time for people to get to know each other and for people to be able to like sort of like talk a little bit about the stuff that inspires them. So to a point, I would say get to know people, try to get like a sense of like what inspires them, because like I personally think that there are certain game teams that I just couldn't join because the concept wouldn't inspire me. Like I would just be making assets for a team for a concept that doesn't inspire me. Yeah. Granted, I could get excited about like, you know, doing work for work's sake, like drawing for drawing's sake, UI design for UI design's sake is fine. But I think the single most like thing that I would want to ask of the jammers in my team are like, what kind of games do you like? Like what inspires you? Because if you don't know those things, then you might end up working on a game where you're just kind of like, it's okay, I guess. And, you know? What do you think, man? Getting to know jammers ahead of time.
I don't know. I guess I've been at the game jams I've participated in. It's been maybe like half and half or something. Like, CJ and I have done a lot of game jams together. Obviously, we know each other quite well. I've also done game jams with, you know, some of our friends in Texas, with Willow also. But usually we have at least a few people on our team that are like total strangers, haven't met before.
I think honestly, like a good... I like Zelda. Let's make Zelda. I think you can take like a seed from that for sure. But like, as Toji said with like the whole let's make Link to the Past in 48 hours, it's like, no!
Did your predictive text keyboard try to autocorrect Ka to Kia?
Yeah.
That's too silly. Anyway,
so let me explain paper modeling and paper prototyping with these sheets of paper.
Do it.
So essentially, like, paper modeling or paper prototyping is making things in paper that are going making the main concept of the game in paper. So, for instance, let's say that I was like, hold on. This is like very, very, this is a postcard of Hollow Knight. I'm going to make a game out of this.
There you go.
So this postcard of Hollow Knight here is going to be my like game scene, right? And this chapstick is going to be my character. And I'm going to show someone, I'm showing to you right now, how the character moves in the scene. So I'm going to say, all right, mabbees, using the arrow keys. So you're going to yell to me like up, down, left, right. You're going to move this character in this scene.
Go left.
Go left. All right, we're going. Is this right? No, we're going. Oh no, it's off the scene.
Go right.
Oh no, go right. Okay.
Quick. Go up.
Go up. It's up. It's going up, but it only can go up a little bit.
Okay, go back down.
Okay, it's down. So, this helps you kind of figure out like what kind of movements your character can make in the scene, without actually having to spend any coding effort whatsoever. And if you have another person controlling whatever it is that you're doing, it's very, very cheap. And as I said, it's zatsu, like really, really
super rough.
Yeah, it's really rough. Trying to understand the basic mechanics of what your game is going to look like and try to help someone visualize what that basic game like looks like, can help you visualize what are the main sort of components or parts in each of these things, right? Similarly, if you have like two pieces of paper, you can use this as like, for instance, like when an interface overlaps another interface. So like, let's say this is the scene. Mabbees press the start button. He presses the start button. Whoop! Oh, the interface comes up like this. What do you think about that? Like, these are the things that you can do to very quickly test with your other team members the types of animations or the types of things you want to do just with like post-it notes or like paper alone.
Yeah. And
this can be done via video. This can be done in person. Yeah. So yes. All right. Thank you for stopping by, Cosmo. I'm excited to see everybody this evening.
Yeah.
So yes, that is paper modeling. What else? Any other questions from the chat? If anybody is interested. Sippy. Alrighty. If not, I am gonna show you some game engines that I suggest for people to get interested in. Hold on.
I say you got a proper.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Proper list.
I do. To anybody who looks at this list and says there should be more game engines on this, chat me. Let me know. I want to know. So these are game engines that are free to download. Oh, that's good. Toji asks, current favorite game that you might use for a template for a game jam? Good question. I don't know. I think like for instance, I was thinking about, I think this is her, yes, thank you. I found that some of Anna Anthropy's digital games, like the 7 Things I Mistake for My Cat.
Excellent.
Arrow keys. This kind of like this kind of game play I find to be really charming, and it's really, really simple, and it's extremely like effective, I guess, at telling a story. And Anthropy is really good at like just very simple digital games that pack a lot of punch, right?
Yeah.
I can relate to this. A small black cauldron.
You got one of those in your house, right?
Yep. That's ours.
Everyone's got one of those, yeah.
Yeah, everyone does. Birdland. I'm gonna open that for. So I would say like some of Anna Anthropy's games would use as a good template because it's very simple and it's very to the point.
Birdland.camp.
Birdland.camp.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Cool twine games.
Nice.
Love it. Oh my gosh.
Deputy Bird.
Deputy.
What is the function? Help people. Oh man, I'm putting this on my gonna play this later. But yes, that is super excellent, and this is also like very Twine-esque. So if you go to twinery.org, this is what Twine looks like on the back end of things, and it is very similar to this. In fact, ta-da! You can this was a Twine game that I made that has like 4 different endings.
Yeah.
But the baseline like output of it is very, very simple text, and then you can make things like blurry or you know, there's some animations here. There we go. Yeah. So that's probably what I would recommend for like starting things, is something that's either text-based or something that's like really simple, like pixel, like interface-based, because those are good starter things and can tell a really good story.
Yeah.
Bye, Willow. Bye, Willow. Thank you for coming. All right. So yeah, and as I said, Twine doesn't like coding isn't what there is code if you dive really deep into it. There's a lot of code involved, but like Twine itself, the commands are relatively simple, and so it's not. I wouldn't necessarily it's very easy to pick up and learn. RenPy is a little bit more complex, but the documentation's good and they have good templates. So not a lot of coding required in these ones. For beginner coders, Unity, Godot, Construct. Intermediate, and I say intermediate for Pico 8 just because like if you don't have Pico 8 was developed very much with like a programmer's mindset. So like it's very programmer's mindset focused. If you don't already have that mindset, then it will probably, you'll have some trouble starting up and like getting the hang of Pico 8. But I've also heard that people who have a programming mindset can pick up Pico 8 really easily. Phaser and Love, and then the Game Jam challenge mode, as I said, Unreal is very challenging. And I've heard of Panda 3D. So the ones that I have personally tried are RPG Maker, Twine, RenPy, Unity, Pico 8, and Unreal. At some point I want to try Love and Godot, because those are pretty big game engines. But I would definitely, for those of you who are interested, start on this end where there is either no coding required or beginner, so that you can kind of like get yourself into it, you know? Yeah. Cool. Any other questions about game jamming, game building?
I have another suggestion for people that are game jamming. A lot of times you'll go into a game jam being like, oh, I have to make everything. And you don't have to make everything. You can find some cool asset packs. There's a lot of good ones on itch. Some of them are for money and some of them are for free.
Browse game assets.
Yeah.
And then free.
There
Oh
you
my
go.
god!
You can use all these asset packs and make a cool game, and you don't have to spend all of your time making all the art that... Yeah.
Look at how dang cute this is. Look at this dang cute thing
man.
with this dang cute bun.
Now I want to make a game using this asset pack.
And it says hello.
It does say hello.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Hello. All I'm saying is, you could definitely make a game.
You could even make a game about farming. They got lots of little vegetables and plants that you can grow. That's real cool. I love it.
I have to say, I haven't done this before, but it would be really, really fun to make a, to not base anything on an engine, but just to be like, okay, I'm going to try to get, like, download an asset pack in one style, and then I'm going to try to make a completely different style game. So, like, for instance, if you download the Sproutlands asset pack and you're like, it's a dungeon crawler. Okay, how do you make this into a dungeon crawler, right? This is pretty cute, too. Look at these little guys.
Wow, they got animations and stuff.
Oh, I like this guy.
That's a cool guy.
Super attack. Anyway, point being is that there's quite a lot of, and then if you're interested in like getting stuff for visual novel things, you know, like really, there's so much out there for you to like, you know, work on. Look at this. You even got a little Castlevania. Oh my god, look at all these free pixel foods.
Hey.
This makes me hungry.
Yeah. Those look good.
I want this raging. Please, I know that I can't, you can't promise anything for the game jam, but I want someone to use this.
Right?
These really tasty pixel foods. Maybe I'll do it in the game that I'm...
Live your dreams.
That's the other thing is that...
CJ will be spending a lot of their time doing the organization and, what's the word, facilitation for the site?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. But around like Saturday-ish is like, maybe like right after 10 or 11 on Saturday is
Once
when...
all the teams have kind of settled into their groove.
Yeah, I have time. And the last 2 times? Was it last 2 times?
Yeah.
Last 2 times I made games, and it was like fun as hell, but it also like requires me to have like very, very small circles of like innovation. Like I have to be like, what, just in this like 32 by 32 square, what can I do? All right, I'm thinking about this pixel food. I don't know what to do with it, but
Love it.
it's a good idea. So yeah, even if your team, what is all of this
There's
food?
So much pixel food.
I love it. Okay, anyway, my point is like, if your team really can't think of like a style or like
dino characters.
what, and they have
Anyway.
animations. Ah! Anyway, it slays me how many like really awesome asset things are out here on itch for free, and that teams are like, oh my god, we have to build everything from scratch, and it's like, no, just go here, and like, yeah. So do yourself a good thing, and like you could even build the Secret of Mana with this like Gentle Forest pack, this Magic Cliffs pack.
Yeah, there you go, Toji. You want to build Link to the Past?
Yeah, this is basically Link to the Past right here. Actually, it's not. Well, it's more Secret of Mana.
Yeah, it is.
Right. So yeah, very, very cool. And oh wow, got good Renpai stuff. So yeah. And for those of you who like building stuff like this, consider donating to the Creative Commons of free assets, because it makes Game Jam people really happy. You can even have these low poly trees. All I'm thinking about is food. Food game.
Food game.
What's this moon?
Sound effects button.
Sound effects button. So yeah, you can find all sorts of like just like really interesting stuff here. And highly recommend going and like looking through this. Does Unity have
Yeah, Unity's got some free assets too. A lot of the stuff on Unity is like for money, but some of it's also pretty reasonably priced, so I wouldn't necessarily discount that entirely either.
Yeah. And you can like basically make it, all right, so here's the free assets,
Here's
right?
all three assets.
So
yeah, there's some pretty good stuff for Unity as well.
I forgot that there's a Unity Chan model.
Right.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, it's Brownhead White Guy for... There we go. There he is.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna do a run. He's a SWAT man. Toji's like, I'll settle for a Shining Force. Oh yes, settling. So yeah, lots of good places to go get assets. Definitely please let that inspire you.
Yeah.
Alright. Any other things that... Oh yeah, and the other thing is, it doesn't have to be a digital game. You can make card games with people.
Okay.
In fact, that was one thing I was considering doing as the game that I was going to make this year, is doing a card game, like a physical card game, instead of having so consider. Doesn't necessarily the game on the Game Jam spectrum does not have to be digital. You can just print stuff out and play games. So what other stuff do we want to cover? I think we went through our sort of main big ones, which was, what is a game jam? How is it? Why is it cool? How you go through the game jam? I guess a warning I would say is that like me personally, I think that the ideal game jam team is somewhere between 4 people, ish 4 people. Once it gets to be 6 people, you're going to need to designate one person as the project manager, because the amount of like communication that is happening between different people is going to be very intense. So if you have a team of 6 people, just remember one person, whether they like it or not, is going to have to manage the team.
Yeah, it's pretty hard with more than 4 to just self-organize or have it organically happen. So I don't know, if you're working with people that you've all met before, it's maybe more doable.
Yep.
I don't know. Anyway, I think 4 is a really good sweet spot for a team size.
Yeah, agreed. And you can do, so for instance, like Matt and I can do things together as like a 2-person team.
Yeah.
And when we put out something, it can be really tight. Like for instance, the prototype that we had for Terra Nova, we did that just ourselves in a weekend. But the thing is like, we already kind of had a concept in mind, and we knew that we were just going to do the game jam to build a proof of concept. And that's not necessarily bad, but we didn't really meet anybody new, and we didn't really get any new ideas per se. It was just more sort of like, we're taking this time to build this, you know? And there's some teams that choose that, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, but if you're looking to be like inspired by new ideas, it's taking the opportunity to meet people when you can meet people, especially in this pandemic, is really a good idea. Any other questions from the chat group? Any other concerns or worries or?
I got a question for the people in the chat.
Oh yeah.
How many of y'all have done a game jam before, and how many of y'all are gonna do Global Game Jam this weekend? I hope some of you are at least, if not inspired for this weekend, inspired to do it
sometime. Yeah. That is a good question. I myself don't actually even know how how I became so interested in game jams. I stole the rest of the tea.
Okay.
Do you want? There's some tea.
Half a cup here, maybe.
Okay. Is there anybody, or is there anybody who is here that is thinking, yeah, that's all great and everything, but y'all are experienced game developers. It's easy for you to say that you can make a game in 48 hours, but I have my doubts. Toji's gonna be playing Mario Kart, but we'll be there, Spirit. It's true. You gotta send me some of your sick Mario Kart moves. I was like, I don't know whose quote it was, but we talk about this a lot when, well, we've been talking a lot about this when we do Terra Nova, where like the first step to becoming kind of good at something is being really bad at it.
It's true. I believe Jake the dog from Adventure Time.
Yes. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. Internet. Okay. Toji says there's a 30-second delay between the chat and the stream. Yeah, I know that there's some delay, but this one is a little bit longer than normal. Better check our internet connection setting.
I don't think it's us. I'm assuming just something about how Twitch is load balancing their servers right now.
Oh, okay. Oh, you know, there is a lot of game jammers streaming stuff nowadays. But yeah, I guess to people who feel, you know, like, I'm worried that I'm going to let my team down. I feel like I'm not going to be good enough to, like, do something or something like that. But, like, you know, to be honest, I joke about the stuff that I produced in the early days of Global Game Jam, but, like, that was the best that I could do at the time, right? But even before that, I was drawing and writing and doing things. And let me tell you, I don't want to show you any of the stuff that I wrote when I was in high school. None of it. I showed it to Matt once and he said, please stop. This is physically hurting my ears.
Yeah.
No, but it's true, right? Like, it was bad. And that's okay. It's okay to be bad. And I think especially allowing yourself, and I think this is true especially in like work related things, it's all fine and good and everything to say it's okay to be bad when you're in a work related situation, but ultimately work is paying you money so that you do your job well. And so no matter what people say, like, you know, failure is okay, like it's okay to fail, unless that's repeated like multiple times, the fact still remains you're receiving money to do your job well, and that will always be an incentive for you to like stress or panic about how well you're doing your job.
Yeah.
With game jams, especially, no one's paying you to do this.
Nope.
You have literally no reason to do a game jam, if not just to better yourself or to make a game or to just do it just because, you know, or because you're doing it because your friends are doing it. That's also a totally fine reason to do it. And oh, stop. Toji's like, and then Duo showed up confidently as Hiro was living the shower. He quipped, I see you working that gut busting my will, my boy. Yeah, it was basically like that. And I feel so called out right now. It was a Gundam Wing fanfic that I showed Matt for sure. But that being said, it's totally fine to start where you are. And especially when it comes to hackathons like this, it's totally fine to fail. And that's one of the things I really appreciate about hackathons, and hackathons that don't necessarily have a monetary prize or don't have any sort of like monetary incentive going along with it, because removing that monetary incentive can give you the freedom to just explore and to fail and to get creative and to do things, you know?
Be experimental.
Yeah, exactly. Cool beans. Well, I think that felt like a really nice ending. I know we have like 9 more minutes left in the stream, but I'm feeling kind of like, I don't know, complete at this moment, unless there are people in the chat who want to get any last minute like answers to questions or anything before.
Answers to all of your burning questions.
Burning hot questions. And the question to will I show you my Gundam Wing fanfic is no. There's a very small group of people that can see that Gundam Wing fanfic and take it for what it was in that time, but absolutely not. We'll let the
take it away, Spotify.
yeah. Give people some time to kind of, maybe a minute or so. Yeah, we got some good jams for this, this stream this time. Oh, your favorite... Oh! I already have an answer pre-prepared for this question. Your favorite game controller gimmick, like the Wiimote waggle and such. So, my absolute favorite two, and actually they are Wiimote ones. My two favorite game gimmicks are in the same game. Very first, No More Heroes game. The first one is that the Wiimote had a speaker, and so you could pick up the phone that was ringing, and the Wiimote speaker would play the sound really, really softly, so you'd have to press the Wiimote to your ear like an actual phone.
Yeah.
To like hear what the next part of the story was in No More Heroes. That was one. And the other thing that they still do now with No More Heroes, like they've continued this, is that in order to charge up your beam saber, you have to go like this with the Wiimote, like a shake weight or some kind of like really shitty flashlight that like the batteries aren't working correctly. I always found that to be like a really like when that first happened.
Shows you what kind of game No More Heroes is.
Absolutely, yeah. It's completely like unrepentantly silly and like makes you do really stupid stuff. So I love that. That's my favorite gimmick. What about you, Mabbees?
Ooh. It's not like a controller gimmick per se, but the I don't know. It was very fun playing Phoenix Wright on the DS and shouting objection.
Oh yeah, you can shout objection.
You can.
Yeah. Oh, now that you mention it, there was one... Oh, I feel like I'm going to do... Okay, this is spoilers for a DS game, though, y'all. Like... So, like... Oh, yes. The
underwater telephone, yeah.
Yeah. Toji is saying, like, it sounds like a bad phone call, and, like, the shake weight component. A game... Yeah, I love the soundtrack. Everything about it is just super great. But I just remembered... if anyone remembers a game called Hotel Dusk on the like DS, there was a point in time in one of the puzzles where it was like, okay, you have to like carbon copy print like someone's fingerprints or like a letter that someone wrote, right?
Yeah,
and you had to close the DS and then open it back up in order to like carbon
one screen onto the other screen.
Yeah, that was pretty like for the longest time I was like, what?
Oh, okay.
What? And then I closed it. I was like, whoa, this is so cool.
Yeah.
So yeah.
DS had some great innovation. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a good era.
The PS Vita had like Tearaway for the PS Vita.
That was neat.
Also
Media Molecule always makes awesome stuff.
Yeah, for sure. But I have to say that like Nintendo stuff, the like sort of play within we could get into like Metal Gear Solid stuff too, but like you know, I felt like the controller to the human interaction aspect of games done by Nintendo or like on Nintendo platforms is always really good. Sweet. All right. So going, oh my god, yes. Oh yeah, man, DS is great. Original Ni no Kuni. Yeah. That's probably also the reason why we still have our DSs, even though like I don't have the heart to give them away because they're such a great system. DS represent. All right, so to wrap it all up, Game Jam is starting today. I mean, it started like on the 20th, but today we're going to be doing the 3-day Game Jam. We're going to go into a hole and we're going to come out with some kind of game that we'll probably talk about on next live stream, actually. Yep. That being said, for those of you who are participating in the Global Game Jam, good luck. You're going to kill it. I'm so excited. You're gonna learn so much.
Yeah.
And
have an awesome time. If you're not already on our Discord, please join our Discord and tell us about your game.
yes, exactly.
'Cause I want to see it.
Yeah. So we are currently making a game, an indie game, and you should check out our game. It's called Play Terra Nova, and if you go to that link, you can see that there's a Discord, and we mostly talk about like game development stuff as it pertains to this game, and then just game development stuff in general. Have been doing it every Friday.
Yeah. Sometimes we talk about, I don't know, fanfics and...
Yeah, and culture of that time and everything. So yeah.
Old anime.
It's all good. So if you like any of those things, feel free to join our Discord and chat with us. We'll probably be doing some kind of live stream for the demo for Global Game Jam. And then for people who aren't participating in Global Game Jam, just raise a glass for like all of us who are going through all of this, because it's gonna be 10 p.m. No, it's gonna be 12 a.m. or 1 a.m. Saturday, and I'm gonna be losing my goddamn mind. And just like at around like 12, just pour like a glass of cognac out on the floor for me, if you don't mind. Would make me really happy. All right. Take care, y'all. Sending lots of good energy, good vibes to you. Thank you so much for joining the stream. I saw a lot of people in the chat, which made me really happy. And have a super good game jam. And we will see you later.
Next week.
Bye-bye.